guys, hope all of us are doing great. My name is Ernest and this is Ernest Sciences and Mathematics TV channel. Before you proceed, I would kindly like to request our members to subscribe, engage us in the comment section, and also ring that notification bell so that we can be getting various updates on the topics under discussion. Now, in this case, I also like to encourage our members to be engaging us in the comment section so that we can be discussing further on these various topics that we have, of course, done under the concept of statistics. Now, in this particular discussion, I'm going to look at two basic measures of dispersion, and those are going to be the absolute and the relative measures of dispersion in that particular order. Now, in our last discussion, I basically mentioned the concept of dispersion as a variation, which basically gives the spread or the scatter of data, of course, about some average values. And of course, I had given an example of a particular graphical representation, which of course was general, but I'm just going to give it for the sake of just comprehending this. But we're going to give specific examples which are going to assist us, of course, understand the particular concept. So I've decided that in case we have a comparison of a set of two specific types of distribution, we're going to see that basically that's going to give us a particular average value in trying to compare that specific relationship. And therefore, the spread of this specific, or the scatter of this specific range of values around this, can be given in terms of dispersion. And therefore, that's going to make up for what we refer to as a scatter, or the spread of items about of a specific distribution about an average value. Now, in this case, I mentioned basically that we have measures of dispersions, and this were going to be essential for us in trying to measure the extent to which the data is spread or scattered out. And for us, in order to, of course, find the relevance in this, I mentioned that basically the measures of dispersion are going to assist us in trying to control this aspect of variability of data, and of course in trying to make judgment on the, or try to measure the reliability of some specific measures of a central tendency which I mentioned. Now, apart from that, I've also said that this is going to be very essential in trying to make a further statistical analysis, and of course those are going to provide for us a way of understanding these two specific types of measures of dispersion which I've given on the board. Now, suppose we have a distribution or two sets of distribution for particular items of x and y. I can just give this specific distribution given in terms of that one, and therefore give a second distribution in terms of y given as that. And for us to compare these two specific distributions, perhaps I'm going to check on their average. And it will be good for us to also to consider the units of measurement of this specific two sets of distribution. Now, for us to check on the variations of perhaps a specific range of values of these two specific distributions, we are going to take considerations of those specific concepts of perhaps the units of measurement in that particular case. Now, measures of dispersion, of course, which are going to be expressed in the original units. Perhaps if this was length, I'm going to give this one just for the case of, for the sake of illustration, length in meters perhaps, and this is going to be length in kilometers. So as we can see, these are been given in two different units of measurement. In as much as there might be a relationship, of course, there's going to be a change in magnitude. So therefore, we're going to see that these are two different units of measurement. And therefore, for us to give a specific measure of dispersion, we're going to take that one in consideration. Now, for measures of dispersion which are expressed, of course, in terms of their original units of this specific distribution, of course, we are going to refer to that one as an absolute measure of dispersion given in that particular case. So therefore, the difference, of course, the measure of dispersion which has been expressed later, perhaps in meters of this specific dispersion or kilometers of this specific dispersion, is going to be referred to as the absolute measures in that particular case. And of course, this is going to create a contrast with the second one, which I've stated for the relative measures of dispersion, which are going to basically constitute ratios or percentage of measures of this specific dispersion that I've referred to as absolute dispersion to some of the measures of central tendency, which we're going to see later. In this case, there's a specific sense in which we are going to find the application of these two specific sets of measures of dispersion in our treatment of statistical data, in a sense that the relative measure of dispersion is going to be appropriate for us in trying to do a comparison of a specific set of data contrary to the absolute one. Now, in this case, of course, we're going to see that for a specific range of data which we're going to consider in that particular case, this can be even a specific distribution of data bearing the same units of kilometers for x and y. Of course, this particular set of measurement of relative measures of dispersion is going to be appropriate for us to use in trying to make this measurement. Now, this is going to be more elaborate for us in trying to compare a specific set of data, and therefore we're going to come up with the specific perhaps quantities which we're going to consider in order for us to understand better the difference between absolute and relative measures of dispersion. Now, in this case, of course, in summary form, I've said that we're going to have two basic measures of dispersion. And the first one is going to be absolute dispersion, and the second absolute measures, and the second one is relative measures of dispersion in that particular order. Now, I've said that for the absolute value, this is going to be a measure of dispersion, of course, which has been expressed in terms of the original units, of course, of measurement. And of course, we are going to see that for the relative measures of dispersion, this is going to be a ratio or a percentage of the measure of this absolute value or absolute measure to appropriate measure of a specific measure of central tendency, which I had mentioned. Now, basically, then I mentioned and said that basically in our treatment of data, we're going to rely heavily on the concept of relative measures, since for us to cater for the variation of units which are mentioned in this particular case, then therefore the relative measure, of course, is going to be very handy in us trying to make a treatment of data contrary to the absolute measure in that particular case. Now, in our next discussion, we're going to look at specific examples, and that is going to assist us, of course, understand this specific concept in a deeper way. So kindly check our description boxes for various links of other videos, and also engage us in the comment section so that we can be having a healthy discussion on these specific topics under the broader topic of statistics. So that is it for now, guys. Bye, God bless you. Catch us in our next video.